Your loved one has now been diagnosed with a dementing illness. Whether it's Alzheimer's disease, Lewy body dementia, it doesn't matter which form of dementia is. You're going to be on a long journey. You need to be surrounded by those who have also walked this journey. And I find that so many of the people I've worked with have found support groups so very helpful. As a professional caregiver myself, I learned more from my support group than I ever taught the members of that support group, because they all have encountered similar issues that other members of the support group are encountering. And together we can brainstorm and come up with some possible solutions to those issues. I'd like to have you listen in on some of their stories now.
One of the things that I find really wonderful is how much affection or love there is between people. Mm-hmm. If you read the papers, you never get that sense. Everybody's getting divorced, everybody's killing somebody else. Never find comments about one another. But when you go to these meetings and you hear about the people, how they give of themselves to take care of someone else. Mm-hmm. The meeting we went to, what was that, Monday night, there were two couples there. The husband, both cases, are participants. I called them inmates once. Boy, did they get mad at me. But in both cases, neither of the couples had been married, are not married, have lived together for 30 plus years, and you couldn't ask for more caring partners than showed up there.
Sure.
And then we had an older guy. I'm not sure he was Austrian Austrian or Italian, but obviously a person who made his living with his hands, and fairly well, I guess. But his ability to communicate was not of the best level, and was he frustrated. But when we got to talking to him and dealing with him in the group structure, we helped him a lot, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
But to see this man who this whole concept was of caring, of my wife being ill and getting worse, but having inability to do things that they did all the time. He just thoroughly confused and frightened.
Yes,
I would say frightened. Remember?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he looked to be, he could have been 90, I think.
Oh, God, yeah. But built like a brick house.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
did you see the hands on him?
English, so he assumedly was born elsewhere. But his feeling towards his wife, his concern, his frustration, his apprehension,
was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, it goes back
he was
to
so upset because now his wife was starting to eat with her fingers rather than using a knife and fork.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't get the concept that, what the hell does it matter? As long as the food goes in the mouth and then into the body, that's what counts. And I would like to think that by the time we got finished with him, he was getting ready to accept that.
I think we helped, as all these meetings do.
My wife maybe has Alzheimer's, but she certainly has dementia. So I'm not really sure which it is, but I really think it doesn't matter. I've been her caregiver in that role. That is, I've been her husband for 60 years now. June 6th will be our 60th anniversary. That's not too far off. But I've been her caregiver since she became ill. And there's a lot to learn on that road of taking care of somebody that you love so much. And I think it's important to say, once again, that around this table, at the support group meetings that I have attended, that is where I picked up a great deal of certainly emotional support, but knowledge, more importantly, knowledge on how to deal with the problems. When you're confronted with Alzheimer's or dementia, it's hard to see more than a half a step ahead of you. You don't know where you're going, and you don't know how you're going to deal with it. But when you get in the support group, you find people at different stages, and you begin to learn how to care for somebody that you love, and equally as important, how to care for yourself. Because if you don't care for yourself well enough, you're not going to be able to care for the person that you love so well. So those two things are ultimately important in the long run. Everything else falls by the wayside, I think. Just to touch a few spots down along the path that I traveled. I was set on caring for my wife myself. Nobody was going to do it better than I could. I didn't expect anybody to. And I tell you, I didn't get too many volunteers along the way. Friends kind of drift off, people drift off, children disappear. Don't count on them. They can't face it. Neither can I, but I have to deal with it. So, along the way, you learn certain things. And one of the big things that I learned when I crashed against the wall myself was that you really can't do it all yourself. You really need whatever kind of help you can get in any way, shape, or form, from relatives, from hired help, from coming to support groups. Underscore that. It's vital experience you'll be listening to around this table. And people who understand your problem will sit around this table and share their grief and knowledge and experience with you that you can benefit from it. And that's the ultimate kind of help you can get, I think. I cared for her so much and tried to keep her at home. And what happened every week, the ambulance would come and carry me off to Northern Westchester Hospital, where they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. It was kind of amazing. They never put A and B together to understand what it was I was dealing with. Until finally, a psychiatrist whom I went to see prescribed some Paxil for me. And that made a great change in my life, I have to tell you. This is not an ad for Paxil, but it is. It truly is. For me, it was.
It works.
Yes, it worked for me. I wasn't getting crazy, you know. But what I really wanted to touch on was some of the experiences that I went through. Initially, I discovered there was a problem with Nell, my wife, and it began to show up in kind of unusual ways. And that's what happens. You're not expecting anything like that to enter your life. We'd be driving along the road, and I'd be driving, and Nell was always my navigator. She took through life as well as getting from A to B on the road. But I'd say, tell me where we turn off for the bridge here, right? And I'm zipping along 60 miles an hour. And I said, well, where do we turn off? I can't remember where the turnoff is. And she'd say, there. I say, where? There, 60 miles an hour, there becomes somewhere back there, you know? So I, of course, got upset. Of course, I did, because that's me. I got upset, and I'm yelling at her and said, hey, I guess there is no kind of direction. But I don't want to belabor that. But all of a sudden, I began to realize something is amiss here, you know? And she couldn't deal with names of places or names of people. Proper names just disappeared from her vocabulary. And that was the beginning of some of the clues to realize that something was wrong. And then she was an excellent driver herself, just very capable. She was a registered nurse, was her profession. When I let her work, which I didn't do for very long. But she got behind the wheel of the car, and I took her riding around to test her out. And I said something about, do you want to release that brake down there, and we're moving down the road? And she just would bend over like that and look for this thing, you know, that she had to deal with, you know. And I said, no more driving. And that was it. As far as I was concerned, it was an important point. I did not let her drive. I was not about to let anything bad happen to her or allow her to do something bad to somebody else. So when people sit around the table cogitating about, I don't know, how to take away the keys from them and all like that, you know, they could go out and kill somebody in 2 minutes, and then you'll know how to take away the keys. So I took her keys away. It was not a problem. She never really gave me a hard time about it, but I recognized, I learned that was something I had to do. That's to protect her more than anything else. And let me tell you, from daughter-in-laws and stuff like that, I got so much flack. How can you take away the keys from her? She has a right, you know. Forget it. They just don't know what the problem is and what your goal is. And your children don't know. Caring for a spouse is different from caring for a mother or a father or a brother or an uncle or something. Caring for a spouse has got to be the hardest kind of work there is, because that's love bumping up against that other person, and you want to do the best you can. In the kitchen, where she reigned completely, she couldn't set the table anymore. Those were further clues, you know. And I tell you, I don't have to tell you. A lot of you guys around here, people here, know what it's like when you see the person you love failing at what they do normally every day of the week. She couldn't operate the microwave oven. It was too complex, you know. And that was something key that I learned at that point. I learned never to give her a choice of foods because she couldn't handle it. But what I learned was, don't put her in a position to fail. I never asked her what she wanted to eat anymore. I just gave her something to eat. I didn't want her to fail. I didn't ask her to set the table because she couldn't do it. And when she failed, it was dreadful. She knew she was failing. She could tell. And she felt terrible, and watching her, I felt worse. So those were some of the things I learned. And onward from there, I guess, to one of the toughest points in my learning experience. When you come face to face with incontinence. That's no miracle problem. Mothers do it all the time with babies. Each of us lived through a process of being cared for like that. But when you find signs of it on the wall and the sink and all over the place, and you confront it, and my response, again for me, was normal. Oh my God, what is that? What are you doing? You know. And Nell responded, I'm doing the best I can.
Can't do more than that.
And I learned a bigger lesson. Never to get angry. Never to get angry because they understand the tone of your voice and it upsets them and only makes the process worse. I had to learn not to, when you put your finger in the fire, go, wow, that hurts. You just don't do it, you know. And you learn not to show your anger. So those are kind of the things. Let me add one more thing, because you're forever, it's a learning experience. 15 years I've been doing this game. To tell you, you'll learn a lot that you never thought you would have to learn. You know, we would travel down to Hilton Head, where we had a home. Every 2 months, we'd get down to Hilton Head and then come back to Heritage Hills, where we live. And one day, I drove her down to Hilton Head, which was always a happy experience. And we got out of the car there about 3:30 in the afternoon when we arrived. And she didn't know where she was. What good is all that wonderful ocean, beach, and life when you can't recognize even where you're at? And what I'm getting to, though, coming home by car again, was the problem of how to deal with taking her to the bathroom. I tried for a while at the big rest stops, letting her go in to the ladies' room with all the rest of the ladies going in and out while I stood guard outside at the door, you know. And that, I quickly found, was not a great thing to do. People were coming out of there going, you know, what's going on here, you know, or something. And I knew it wasn't working well beyond the door. So what I came up with was we learned to stop at gasoline stations along the way, where I could take her into the bathroom and care for her, and nobody objected and nobody thought it was crazy or anything else. We had a certain amount of privacy there, and that's how I solved it. And that's what you have to do along the way. Find solutions to all of these various problems that come up, or listen to people talk about how they solved it. And that's the benefit of sitting around at this table. And I kind of think I've spoken longer than I intended to. But I'm going to close it off with one more point, which may be the most important of all. Having to care for somebody that you love so much is a blessing. Doing for her just gives me great joy. But it's an expression of love. My caring for her is an expression of my love for her. In the 60 years that we've been together, we have become one person. There's not two of us anymore. One. That's what love will do for you. But expressing love throughout your whole caring procedure is one of the most important things that I can think of. It gives the person that's ill something to hold on to that nobody else can offer them. That love is a rock of strength. Not only for her, but for me. It's what keeps me sane and gives me rewards untold.